So as discussed in the previous video, in this video we're going to add the escape scene where when the player finally reaches the escape location, it triggers a victory screen. I'm first of all going to close down everything that I've got open previously, and I'm going to click on the arrows here to reopen my asset browser and inspector. As I mentioned previously, rooms in GameMaker are used first of all as actual levels, as we've done with this one here, but they're also used as interface elements like menus or information panels. And we're going to use a room today to be our victory screen. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sprite that's going to be the background for that victory screen. So I'm going to right click on sprites, create sprite. And then I'm going to change the size of my sprite because I want it to be the size of my room. So I'm going to click in resize canvas, this section here. I'm going to click that middle button of the arrows and I'm going to go 768, 768 because that's how large I want my screen to be. I'm going to click apply. And I'm going to go to edit image. We're not going to bother with the background image. I'm going to click edit image and I'm going to add some text in here. I'm going to make it quite sizable, about 48. Make it a bright colour, and I'm going to click you have escaped victory. And then I'm just going to click off it and I'm going to close it here, and that's my simple victory screen. Nothing too complicated. You can add a little bit more detail if you want. You could use an image that you've got online, but I'm just going to do something basic for the time being. So I'm going to close that off and I'm going to move on to the next stage. So I'm now going to create the room that will be the background screen for my victory screen. So I'm going to right click on rooms. I'm going to click create room. I'm going to scroll out a little bit. I'm going to change the width of my room to 768. You'll notice the height is 768, which is fine. And then I'm going to select background. And then where it says no sprite, I'm going to select my sprite. I'm going to click. I'm going to go into sprites. And I'm going to get the sprite that I created for the victory screen. I haven't given it a meaningful name. It's just sprite 4. I really should have changed the name of that sprite to maybe something like sprite victory or something like that. So I'm going to double click, going to click that to select it. And then while I'm remembering about the room, I'm going to right click on it here. I'm going to go to rename and I'm going to call it room victory. So I've created now my sprite and I've created the room that is going to be my victory screen. So with my room created, I'm now going to create the tiles that will trigger the escape. And if you recall, we put the wall tiles into our main room, our room level 1. And I'm going to bring my collision tiles, and you will need to do this as well. I'm going to bring my collision tiles layer up by clicking on it and dragging it. And if you recall, we put the room tiles into the collision tile layer, and we're going to create some escape tiles now and do the same thing. So I'm going to create a sprite for my escape tiles. I'm going to right click, create sprite. This time I am going to change the name to sprite escape. I'm going to click Edit Image, and I'm going to make this just a simple, brightly coloured tile. I'm going to click on my Fill tool, paste in there, and that's it for Sprite Escape. It doesn't have anything it doesn't need to be anything fancy. We're going to hide it anyway. So I'm going to close that, and then I'm going to close it again here. So with my sprite complete, I'm now going to create the object to represent that sprite on the map, that escape tile on the map. If you recall, we did the same thing with object wall, where we created an object, we applied our sprite, and we dragged it onto the map. And I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to right click, object, create, object. I'm going to call this object escape. And then where it says no sprite, I'm going to click in sprite, and I'm going to assign my sprite escape to it. And again, that's all I need to do for the object. I'm going to close that off, and I'm going to open my room level 1 again, and I'm going to drag instances of object escape into my map. And you see I've got this error message, and the reason being is because I haven't got the right layer selected. So I'm going to select collision tiles, and I'm going to drag object escape. You can see now it's working as it should. So with my escape tiles added to the map, I can now write the code to trigger them when they are collided with. So I'm going to click on Object Player, double click on Object Player to open up the code. I'm going to add another event, which is the collision. I'm going to Objects and Object Escape. And what I'm doing here, I'll just select GML Visual, because I'm going to use a visual code. What I'm doing here is writing the code that I want to run every time the player collides with object escape. And this is reasonably simple code. I'm going to click in search. I'm going to search for room. I'm going to go down to rooms and go and drag in go to room. It then gives me the option to select an asset. So I'm going to click on that button there. I'm going to go into rooms. I'm going to go room victory. And now, and all that code does is when the collision takes place between object player and object escape, it runs this code here, which simply loads another room. So I'm going to click play. I'm going to move my sprite there, and then I'm going to move it to the escape tiles. You have escaped victory. And that's how you write code to move from one room to another, in this case, in order to display a victory screen. So just a little bit of tidying up. I'm going to close the game. I'm just going to close this sprite. Then I'm going to go into my room level 1, and I'm just going to move my collision tiles layer below the background so it disappears. And so I've got my full map there.